Well, hello everyone. A special interview now because I'm joined down the line by Bishop John Arnold, the Bishop of Salford, who's actually in Abuja in Nigeria. The capital is not Lagos, as some people think. It is, in fact, Abuja. And Bishop John Arnold has been there ordaining deacons for the Missionary Society of St. Paul and also the Vincentians as well, I believe. Bishop John Arnold, how are you?
I'm very well and certainly enjoying my few days here. It's quite an experience, as it always is, and I love to see um, diverse communities and to experience something of their lives.
And of course, you are making that contribution by ordaining deacons, aren't you, as well?
Well, yes, I like to think so. Certainly, the two orders that I'm visiting um, feel that the relationship gets stronger if people visit and that we can speak to one another rather than just seeing the priests on the ground in England, to be able to say, well, I know your bishop, I know your religious superior, I've met them, and that I think makes a much more a sense of confidence in the relationship that we have.
And of course, you were sort of chair of trustees at CAFOD, so you're familiar with Africa. It's a huge continent. We are talking about one country here and one particular experience. So you have that experience. But tell me a little bit about, we all have our maybe our misconceptions or certainly our stereotypes of particular cultures and churches and what the Catholic Church is like in a certain area. So it's not just the city of Abuja you've been in. You've also been going to what I like actually in your updates. You've called the real Nigeria, found in the smaller towns and the rural areas. So tell us a bit about those experiences.
Well, what I was worried about, I think, well, not worried, but slightly concerned about that I was just going to arrive at Abuja airport and go into Abuja city and see a modern city where businesses are run and transport and all the rest of it is up to date. But in fact, I was collected from the airport and we left the road to the capital very quickly and about 30 miles into, I wouldn't call it the bush, but certainly away from the splendor and the prosperity of what a lot of people think is modern Nigeria. And I'm in a little town called Gwaglalada, and it's really, I think, a taste of what is for most Nigerians the real Nigeria. A lot of street activity, shops, people with their own businesses. An awful lot of street selling markets, and the level of housing really worryingly poor for most, although there is some new housing here, very little more than one story, but at least in concrete and stone. But so many people really living in a degree of poverty, which the priests here have acknowledged is still very much the case.
Yeah, and I mean, there are those sort of, I mean, when I talk about the church in Nigeria, I sometimes quote things like, well, there are 2,000 seminarians in this particular seminary or that particular seminary. And it does have that sort of scale, doesn't it? That the Catholic Church is thriving. I know there are lots of sort of pockets of evangelical churches around as well. But the Catholic Church is thriving. And have you experienced those large numbers at Mass and other places?
Oh, certainly. Yesterday, Sunday Mass in St. Paul's parish here, just a couple of miles from where I'm staying, there were over 2,000 people at Mass. The parish priest thought it was nearer 3,000, but I wasn't going to argue with that. And it was nearly 2 hours long. It was vibrant. There was music. There were three different choirs. There was even when we sort of got to communion after an hour and a half, I thought, well, that's fine. And then there was another half hour of what they call Thanksgiving, which was a series of presentations by different members of different organizations in the parish. The presentation of newborn babies who were brought forward with their families to be blessed on the altar, not the same as baptism, and the various groups that clearly are doing so much. And even when we come away from the mass, and we stayed for about another hour with the priest there, even as we were leaving, there were still two of the choirs practicing. There were, I would say, at least six meetings of men and women of different organizations in the parish, keeping their affairs up to date and plotting their activities. It was just so vibrant. and really impressive. And what was really, for me, endearing is the number of families, young families, lots of children everywhere, and everybody together actually at Mass on a Sunday, which, yes, it was heartwarming.
Now we'll come on to some of those rural experiences in a minute, but I just want to get at that sort of vibrancy and that taking of one's Catholic faith really seriously. I mean, everyone's got an opinion on how we should do mission in the church in England and Wales, and how we can, how our parishes can have a shot in the arm post pandemic, if you forgive the expression, and get to a sort of healthier Catholic life in our countries. Is there anything to be learned? It seems to me that there's a good mix of lay men and lay women and their involvement, and also clergy and religious. Is it a good mix of involvement there?
I think so. I think most people would regard their parish as providing a real sense of community where they live, that they come together on a Sunday for an extensive amount of time with their different organizations. And when I think that we've got so many organizations in our own country, most of them having a degree of problems over recruiting, but there is so much of the community that we could be building in our parishes or rebuilding, which is very evident here in Nigeria. It's clear that people think a great deal of their church, and they take part in not just turning up for Mass, but all the other things that are going on. And the lay leadership is really, in my experience yesterday, but also what I've been hearing from other priests, is really quite impressive. So many people wanting to take some part in the life of the parish.
And do you think it's that team effort, everyone having a role to play, kind of everyone in human terms, everyone having their definite purpose and what they can contribute to the church?
Oh, I think that's quite right. Actually, I was preaching about Newman today at the ordination. But yes, I think that at the moment, well, we've got ourselves into all sorts of problems, haven't we, with social media and the fact that you can get what you want on the click of a mouse, and it's all delivered and it's up to date, and people aren't really being asked to be involved in activities. And I think possibly that's going to, well, do the circle before too long, and people will recognize that it's not actually a very good way of living, and that there are good reasons to be associated with groups of like interests, taking part, and building a sense of community.
Well, it's great to see you, but there's only so much you can do through a sort of 2D screen, especially with a sacramental church that you need to
Yes,
experience and live, isn't it?
yes, yes. But yeah, to be here and to see it, I've got a few ideas about going back that maybe uh, can take root. I don't know. Two of the groups yesterday were particularly impressive: the Catholic Men's Organisation and the Catholic Women's Organisation, and they seem to have big membership. And I was told, particularly, that the Catholic Women's Organisation, the lady in charge of that, actually deals directly with government on various social issues. So there is a degree of influence there. And also the Society of Vincent de Paul, very strong out here, which I'm delighted about because it's been strong in the past in Salford, not so strong now because of lack of recruitment, but something I would like very much to encourage in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds terribly positive. Let's talk a little bit about the real Nigeria of the small towns and rural areas, because in your updates, one of the little things I read that I was quite moved by actually was just a brief exchange you had with a young priest who'd obviously arrived for the ordination, and he was some 7 years ordained, I believe, and had already baptized over 300 children. Is that right?
Yes, this was a new parish out in a rural area, and he'd been put in charge. He's only about 5 or 6 years ordained, and they've established a church. It's only a small church at the moment, but no doubt they'll be expanding fairly soon. But he said, yes, the need was there, and that he's done over 300 baptisms in 5 months, which seems extraordinary. But there was also from him the caution that in this community there's a lot of gang warfare, and that he's experienced quite a lot of violence. He sees that the gangs actually really at warfare against each other rather than at the moment including too many other people. But he's concerned that there is a fear among his congregation that this could get worse.
And obviously, with organisations, charities like Aid to the Church in Need, they've long talked about Christian persecution, certainly in the north of Nigeria. Is that something that people talk to you about?
Oh yes, and I've whilst I've been here, I've met two priests, two bishops from the north, and another priest who's going to be a bishop tomorrow, who's going to be up in the north, and they're very much aware of the problems. And one of them gave me a book that he's written talking about something like returning from the ashes um, after 10 years of Boko Haram terrorism up in the north, that things are improving. But certainly they've got some terrible history there, and it's going to take a long time to heal. All of them were positive in saying things are improving, but far from being a peaceful place.
And from your perspective as a Catholic bishop from England and Wales, how have you been received? Are they pleased to have a bishop from England and Wales over in Nigeria?
Oh, they seem to be delighted. Yes, I'm being spoilt. And dare I say it, I haven't seen any Europeans since I left the airport on, when was it? Wednesday evening. Um, and I am a bit of a local celebrity. And certainly the children, I went to a school and the children all came out, and absolutely every one of them wanted to shake my hand and stroke my hand because I was clearly a bit of a strange commodity to them. But they were lovely, and yes, people have been really so appreciative of the fact that I'm here. And why would I come? Yes, I want to come because I want to build a good relationship with bishops and priests and people here, and they seem to be delighted by that.
What has it been like for you? A personal question now, in terms of your faith. Have you found this is uplifting? Does it change how you feel? Is it, how much has it impacted upon you and your faith?
Oh, I think it does have an impact, and for the good. I just see the international church is very diverse, and for decades we used to send priests abroad as missionaries. Here in Nigeria, many orders came from Europe, and then suddenly our vocations seem to go into decline. But here, there's an extraordinary number of vocations, and they're willing to come as missionaries back to us. So it does seem that if we look at the church globally, we're not doing too badly at all. But that doesn't mean that I want in any way to be uh, unconcerned about our own vocations. No, I think we should be providing for ourselves with our local vocations, and indeed sending some of them to other places too for a good experience. So I think in many ways the church is very healthy in some places. In others, it's struggling a bit. But if you put it all into the mix, the global church, there's a lot of good going on, and I wouldn't want to be despairing about it at all.
No, no, absolutely. And I have to say, even a personal story from my perspective, we have Spiritans close by to us in North London. And
Mhm.
what a fantastic community, actually, the whole community. But the priests in particular have, they don't duck their issues. And they've helped some of my children with some of the issues they've had to deal with. They're quite sort of roll your sleeves up, get stuck in at the sharp end.
Yes.
I think there is lots to learn, but they used to call it reverse mission at one time,
Mm.
didn't they? But
Yes.
the fruits, should we say, of the early missionary work do visit us tenfold, don't they? We get an awful lot back from those communities that come over and serve over in England and Wales.
Oh, I think so. And whether it's liturgy or pastoral ministry, I think these churches have a great deal to offer. And I'm thinking too of my own experience in Southeast Asia, where the church is also very vibrant, and but in a rather different way. And it's wonderful to see the mixture. And I wish people who are fairly despairing at home, saying, "Oh, the church is just going downhill," and I wish they could see some of the things I've seen and be encouraged by the life of the church in various parts of the world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a final question, Bishop John. It is Advent. We are close approaching Christmas. What would your message be to people back home in terms of the church in Nigeria, how it is in Advent? I mean, are people looking to Christ at Christmas at this point?
Oh yes, but in a very different way. The preparations for Christmas in the United Kingdom. I mean, we've had weeks, haven't we, of lights and Santas and this orgy of shopping and present buying and food. None of that here. What is very apparent in the parish yesterday and in the ordination today was that they see the coming of Christ as the real Christmas story to which they are working over a period of 4 weeks of Advent, and that they'll get round to the celebration when it happens, and it'll be more the days after Christmas, which is the celebration of Christmas, rather than this party frenzy that we have in the United Kingdom weeks before Christmas. So I don't think they've lost that sense of the real meaning of Christmas here at all.
And and finally, you wore a CAFOD hat for a long time, and there are various appeals that include Nigeria and other African countries. I mean, you did mention the poverty and the fact that it's not as prosperous as maybe some people might stereotypically think, certainly outside of the main cities. So I guess you'd still say to people, look, you can still support the Catholic Church in Nigeria and all its activities. You'd still advocate, obviously, that we, keep sharp on that one.
Oh, certainly. And the religious orders here do have that mission out to the people who are poor around, and their presence here is very important. But they can certainly do with our help in providing more resources for them to meet the needs of the people here.
Bishop John Arnold, thank you for your time, especially down the line from Abuja, and look forward to seeing you on your return.
Thank you very much indeed.